Mm. Need the timer.
Oh, here, I need to click on OK. I couldn't find it on my screen. Hello, hello, hello to our amazing listeners. So today has been a fun day, and we may have an announcement later on at the end of one of our episodes. I'm not sure if it's going to be today's episode, but we do have an announcement coming up. I think we finally named ourselves. So welcome still to the Unnamed Podcast until we name it. But I'm Rachael Woosley, and I have my dearest friend Diamond Drip here to co-host with me. So say hi, Diamond.
Hi, y'all.
It's a little southern twang on there. I love it. So, as always, we kind of come into these lively discussions. It's always fun because we always start with a lively discussion, and then we're like, man, we should just hit record and like go from there. And so that's kind of what we did today. So that's why the funky intro. But and I'm in a kind of funky mood. So just to kind of put it in perspective, like where we're coming from, this is actually recording on during the Lionsgate. So this is August something or another. And eight, yes, 8. And if you put 2024 together, that's an 8. So we got a bunch of 8s going on. Gotta love 8s. Great number. But yeah, we're coming in with, so there's a whole lot of energy flying around the cosmos. We were talking about I've been feeling it. I physically feel a lot of that stuff. And so today I saw 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, but it wasn't the fun times of the day. So I've already had a long day, but it's great to be on here today. So I'm going to let Diamond introduce what we're going to talk about because it was her topic of choice today. So I'm going to let her start it and then we'll go from there. So there you go, Diamond.
Passes the hot potato while it is still scalding, for sure. So I thought it would be great to talk about manifestation styles simply because as we were talking about how things have been going for both of us, as Rachael mentioned, she's been up since like 2 o'clock this morning, and I have not. I woke up at like 7. And then have been on calls pretty much all day with the exception of a few that got canceled. And it was just perfect because I hadn't originally planned anything special for Lionsgate. We did just have a new moon. So I had been kind of slacking on my new moon rituals, if I'm being honest. But because I was hearing about Lionsgate, that morning, I wanted to like harness some of the energy that we were about to come into. So I wrote down a dream house wish list, and I was cool with that. But then my partner asked me, he was like, yeah, what do you do for new moon ceremony? He's like, can we do that together later? And it was really frustrating actually, because he just wanted to watch me do it. We didn't actually do it together. So I ended up doing it with Taylor, who, oh my gosh, she was so cute. Like just writing down, like one of her wishes was like giant raining Kit Kats or something. I was like, that's cute.
Don't you wish though we all still dreamed like that? Like,
yeah. Yeah. So I got back in my like manifestation bag today. Actually, I'm glad I'm saying this because I need to go back and look at the dream house wish list that I made while we're still in Lionsgate. But I had some extra time added back to my day, and I reviewed the 10 things that I wish for on the new moon. And the way that I do it, you're supposed to like put down your wish, whatever that wish is, and then you're supposed to come up like with an affirmation once you feel into the feeling of whatever that wish is. And then you're supposed to write down an intention that you want to take. A lot of people miss that part. They're like, yeah, I wish for these things and I affirm that I'm going to have these things, but they miss the part where it's like, yeah, you still got to do a little something. Like you need to, so I went over the intentions that I had set to make some of the things come true. And I was happy that, at least a couple of them I was already on my way to. And so when we came in today, Rachel was like talking about all the things that were like basically going not in alignment with her. And I was like, yeah, I was just with my crystals for an hour and just reflecting on my new moon wishes. So we were just at these opposite ends of the spectrum, and I was suggesting that we talk about, manifestation styles and what's been our experience with it, and how do we manifest best? Because I feel like there is a lot of uh toxic positivity around, and in the spiritual world, around manifestation of like, yeah, you just wish for it with all your heart's desires and it should come true. And I'm like, yeah, also, like I said, you have to take action. You have to take some sort of action, you have to set some sort of intention, but then also like exploring what the detachment is, because some of us, we hold on to whatever the specific wish is that we're wishing so hard that we aren't connected to the experience of it actually coming true anymore. And it's like, yes, you have to put your wishes into the universe, but then you have to like let the universe work in a way. Like you can't just be like, for example, one of the wishes that I had was like, obviously we're business owners. I was like, I want more clients equal more money. But really, what I was wanting was just that financial safety and stability and security. That doesn't have to look like clients. That can look like random checks in the mail. That can look like discounted vacation. That can look like, whatever. It doesn't have to be specific. But when you're like, I want clients, I want clients, I want clients, I want clients, and then you get disappointed and dissatisfied with the fact that clients are not showing up, then you're like,
Right.
well, this whole manifestation thing, it sucks.
Right. Yep.
So, yeah, that's what I had suggested that we explore during this episode.
And I think I think it's an amazing topic because you said a couple of key things, and there is, I believe, it's my own personal feeling, there is a lot of toxicity when it comes to manifestation. So and I was telling Diamond this earlier, I'm not a big person on like some of the methodologies that people use. Not that they're bad, they work for that specific person, but they may not work for everybody. And they don't always have the intention behind it, because there's always something you got to do in order you got to give to get, in my opinion. And so there's always been pieces when I've listened to people who are in that space oftentimes talk. And it's not that I don't think that they're trying to do it intentionally. I think it's worked for them. So they think it should work for everybody else. And that's not the way that it works. It's getting, to me, it's always been about a feeling. It's always been about more of like a vibrational feeling. Like, what does that feel like? And because I'm not a feeler, so that's probably why that for me is the space I have to get into to really manifest the things that I want. But I'm also more of a reactor type person. So when I try to go in and script too many things, or try to plan, because I've always been told I'm supposed to be a planner. Okay, that's what I've been told. Now that I've stopped planning as much, all the alignment things that are not in alignment that I thought were in alignment are getting totally screwed up. Let me just tell you. So I have things that I've had in the works and thought I was manifesting, and they're all screwed up because they weren't the right things. I was trying to create something or manifest something that was not in alignment with what I was doing, because I like Diamond's example earlier, I wanted clients. Well, I wanted clients because I want the financial freedom. But the financial freedom doesn't necessarily come because I have more clients, because I did get more clients in one of my businesses and they've all been a pain in my ass. So to me, and it's not like a good pain in your ass, like this is like completely unaligned pain in your asses. And so like, it's one of those things like, do you stay with it or do you don't stay with it? Because you got the money, but is this really what you're supposed to be doing? And so I think there are some key components that have been missing, at least for me, when it comes to manifestation in mainstream, media about manifestation. But then I also think that the intention piece of it is the hugest piece for me that I see not being talked about, because you can't just, I mean, I'm a dreamer. Like I've always, I used to get in trouble in school because she's a dreamer. She just pay attention, that whole scripting. And it's one of those things, like I can dream of all kinds of things, but unless I do something to create that, like I'm not going to get clients if people don't know I'm there. I'm not going to get clients if I don't pick up the phone and call people. I'm not going to get clients unless I hit somebody's DM up, or I meet somebody at a networking. I'm not going to get clients unless I do the things. And so I think for me, anyways, it's understanding what the things are sometimes in order to get to what I want is the most important thing. And being able to make sure the things are in alignment with where I want to go. Because sometimes, like for me, social media has been one of those love-hate relationships. Like I know I need to be on social media, but I hate being on social media. I don't mind consuming it, but I don't like the idea of thinking of making like Instagram posts, like just makes me want to hurl, But I know in order to get into to people's inboxes or on their, the feeds. See, I don't even know the right terminology. I just aged myself, But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, in order to do that, I have to be on social media. So it's not what I want to do, but it's in alignment in where I want to go. And so in order to manifest, I got to do it, which I still am not doing it. So you can kind of figure out where that's going with certain parts of my business. But it's one of those things too that I also look at the grace part of it. And sometimes we're, in the spiritual community, if we're not all one way of doing something, or if it's not all positive, and we don't talk about the negatives, I think sometimes enough, because like today I am physically, like I didn't want to be on here, I'll be honest with you. I almost called Diamond and said I'm not doing it today because I feel so terribly bad. Like physically I feel bad, and a lot of it's just ascension symptoms and those types of things. But I wasn't in the space, but then I'm like, if I don't do this, I'm never going to push through that space. So I have to do certain things to push through it, but it's not pretty in the process, even though I did do hair and makeup and all that. So I did get that done today. You know what I'm saying? But I think sometimes we forget that there are multiple ways to manifesting, because you do it very differently than I do. You're like you can manifest things like out of thin air, type person.
No, my daughter, she manifests stuff out of thin air. Let me tell you, this girl, she manifesting generator fits her so well. Like we were going somewhere, and I forget what the context was. And we picked our ice cream or whatever. I forget exactly what happened, but we went to the register and the guy, he was like, "Oh yeah, which one do you want?" And she like picked it and he was like, "You can have that one." Just like free ice cream. I'm like, this child, like
Yeah, I have one like that too. Like he'll come home and stuff and he's like, "Yeah, I wanted this." And I just, like, my friend had it, didn't want it anymore. So they said I could have it. And I'm like, what? Like, we're talking like expensive toys. Like,
yeah.
he's 14. So you can think of what expensive toys for 14. And I'm like, huh? Like, I can't afford to buy this, and let alone being a parent that would want to donate that to another child just on a whim.
Right.
Like, but he does it, and he's got such a loving heart, and everywhere he goes, he gets free something everywhere. And I'm like, dude, like I love going with him because he's just a joy to watch, you know. And like, dude, why don't you just manifest me like $1 bazillion and we'll all be cool? And he's like, I'll do that one day, mom. Like that's his
Right.
full life. So is your daughter like that?
Oh man. She's still 7. So her manifestations, like I'll like on the paper, she had wrote like she wanted a unicorn in her closet. And this wasn't the first time that she had wished for this. And so it was funny because the first time, like she wasn't specific. about the unicorn in her closet. So she had a gift from Christmas, and it was this unicorn nightlight that she got to like paint or whatever. And she is 7, so she doesn't know where half her things are anyway. And so like she wished that she had a unicorn in her closet. This is a consistent wish for her. And so she was like, she told me, she was like, oh yeah, she was like, let me go check in the closet. And like the unicorn light was in there. And I was like, well, technically, it's not wrong because you did find a unicorn in your closet.
Right.
She was like, I'm in a
Right.
real one. And it's one of those things with like human design and her being a manifesting generator, like as a child, I was told things like that can't happen. Like that's not going to happen. And that affected my ability to wish for things as a child. It affected my ability to want for things growing up, and that stuck with me. So even though she's got some pretty ridiculous things, in my opinion, on that list, I'm like, who am I to tell you
Right.
giant Kit Kats aren't gonna rain from the sky? You know, you go for it. Like you might be at a parade somewhere one day. Like who knows? I don't know. So go for it, Taylor.
Awesome. And I want to kind of expound a little bit on what you said about like growing up being told things, because hello, queen of that right here. So because of my religious upbringing, there were like, it was scripted. This is what you do. Boom, 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 boom. Not like cultic, but you're getting there. But not quite, but you're getting there. So especially like where I live in Phoenix. I'm not a part of that big group of people, but you know, I am a part of one that would have been close to that. And everything we were told was, well, this is what you do deserve, and everything else is not something that you should wish for. And it wasn't like directly said that way, but it was implied. It was implied that if you were in certain positions of leadership, which my husband and I were, that you should not want for anything. God will provide it. Bullshit. Sorry. Ugh. Like literally saying that makes me want to like puke. Um, like saying those things like make me physically. I'm telling people, like if listeners, if you could see me, like it makes me physically hurt
Yeah.
when I say things like that now, because that was so taught to us. And I saw so many people succumb to that ideology that their life could only be a certain way because they followed the principles of the church. And it was not always a spoken rule, but it was kind of the unspoken, you know, blessed are the poor, completely taken out of context. So if you're a listener, sorry if you're a religious person, because I'm going to blow that out of the water, completely out of context. You know, and so people took that as legit, like totally at face value, black and white, you know, lettering. And it had nothing to really do with that at all. And it was one of those things like when you're scripted with that over and over and over, that this is the lifestyle that you must lead. This is a, you know, you must give until your cup is completely freaking empty and it's cracking and it's broken. And that scenario may come up in my book later on, so I'll just put that out there. I finished my chapter and turned it in on Monday.
Yeah.
So that was an analogy I used, but and not in this context. So that's kind of funny because I'll have to think about it in this context with that analogy as well. But like when you're giving from a well that's dry, there is nothing. And even if it's monetary, if it's, you know, relationships, if it's with your, you know, relationships with your kids, your friends, your spouse, your significant other, your partner, whomever, if you're giving from a well that's dry, then you're not giving anything. And so I saw so many people being told to give from dry wells, even though they were supposed to have joy overflowing, which most of them, if not all of them, never had joy overflowing. Because they had this mentality that if they were joyful and they were happy, then somebody else was going to suffer for that. And I was like, growing up, that never made sense. Like, we're supposed to have joy in the Lord, but then we're miserable over here. Then how does that work? And it never did. And even growing up though, now like unscripting that, like when I talk to my kids, like not like my husband and I had to have a serious conversation about 10 years ago when we left the church. What are we not going to teach our children? What lifestyle choices are we not going to teach our children? And that was one of them. Like, if you want to have a unicorn in your closet and you want to have Kit Kats raining down, then let's go for it. Let's figure out a way, because I was never taught that. I was, it was like I'd ask for something and it was like, oh, you shouldn't ask for any more than what you already have. Well, how do you get any more if you don't ask? And that was this whole dichotomy in my head that went on, and it still sometimes goes on for certain aspects. Like, there are certain things that I come up every day and I'm like, oh crap, that's something I have to unscript. And it's almost like the manifestation, when you focus on, sometimes when people want to manifest money, they're focusing on the not having money more than they're focusing on having the money. So they end up not having money because they're not focused on the right things with the manifestation. And so I just want to put that out there. So
Yeah, especially with the work that I've been doing recently with the law of attraction, and not being double-minded. Like, we say that we want these things, we say that we want to be a millionaire, but if someone was like, "You are a millionaire," all of a sudden, like, what does your mind say? The first thing is like, "Yeah, right." Like, stuff like that. It's like you have to actually believe in the things that you're putting out there. So there's that certain element to it. So I thought maybe we can start wrapping this up with how we go about manifestation now. Like, we've been kind of talking about like our relationship with it and things like that, but like how do we approach it now? We've already talked about how it was different kind of growing up and how we're trying to do better with with our children, because Lord help them. But yeah, so you said it's a feeling. So like, I know you don't have like a process or anything like that, but like, how do you approach it now, like concretely, that we can like put in tip form?
right. So right now in this moment, and I have tried all of like the techniques. So if a technique works for you, my biggest tip is do what works for you, because this is what works for me right now. With a lot of my rituals, I have stopped them because they were becoming more rituals than they were actual tools for me to use to either grow spiritually, grow my manifestation, grow my bank accounts, grow my whatever it was. It became more of me doing the process than it actually being the tool to help me get where I wanted to go. And so I really have had, in the last like 6 months, been reevaluating that. And so for me with manifestation right now, it's going, okay, I want to do X, but what is the feeling that I get? Because I'm not a feeling person. I'm always very logical. I'm very scripted. I'm very planned. And as Diamond can tell you with my human design, that if I do those things, oftentimes it doesn't work out because I'm more of a reactor person. And if I do those things, I'm masking in, like with soul contracts. So if I plan a lot of things out and I demand the universe to do these things for me, it oftentimes doesn't work out the way I want it to, because that's not what the universe has planned. So it's like the unicorn in the closet. I think the unicorn should be this big fluffy, stuffed animal that's humongous, or real life unicorn, and it's, a little nightlight. And when I get the nightlight, I'm frustrated because I think the nightlight is not what I asked for. And so it sometimes the nightlight is what I've asked for, and I'm looking at something different. And so I've really kind of had to reevaluate where I'm at. So my biggest tip is, if you're doing some manifestation technique and it's working, keep doing it until it doesn't. And then you're going to have to step back and reevaluate like where you are, and understanding who you are as a person, and then going from there, what you do next in your manifestation. Because that's kind of where I'm at, is like, what is that going to look like for me in the coming 6 months?
I love that, especially because like I said, I had kind of taken a break from like the new moon, full moon. I remember when I had like I forget what happened. Someone was like, I think it was just being in spiritual spaces where everyone was like, oh, yeah, we've got a full moon coming up. Oh, yeah, we've got a new moon coming up. I'm like, what is so special about these moons? Like, what is happening? So, in typical one fashion, I went down a rabbit hole about moons and I bought the book Moonology by Yasmin Bolin.
I have that book too.
Yep. Yep. So this is another one of my gate of extremes. Like I got full in it. Like I was like, okay, so full moons, I'm doing this, new moons, I'm doing this. And then like learning about how like, every month we move through the zodiacs and like being like, ooh, what flavor of the day? Like every day I would sit down, like that would be part of my meditation of like, okay, this is what's in the environment because we're in this phase of the moon for the next 2 days. So like, let me think about these things. And it became exhausting.
Yeah.
It was like, because let me tell you that I remembered why I fell off from this whole new moon ceremony thing until my partner had asked me about it. The whole shebang, like really, like if you do it according to like the way it is in the book, it's like 2 hours. Like it's
Yeah.
like from like getting into the gratitude to the meditation to the closing it out. Like it's a whole ceremony. It's a whole ritual, if you will.
Right.
And so it began to be one of those things where it was like, ah, man, like it wasn't like something I look forward to anymore. It was like, I got to block off 2 hours so I can do these things and release these things. And so, like, I love that tip of like, if it's working for you, like, do it. But like, if it starts to be like, especially as generators, like, if it starts to become a thing where it no longer brings you that joy or satisfaction, like, it's time to move on. But I will say that, like, the new moon, like, doing that, it helped like give me goals. So like I knew that I was in a phase right now. Like I've been talking about getting my offers done, like nobody's business. Like I'm aligned now. I need to create offers and packages that are aligned to what I'm doing. And it was just like something I was saying. But the new moon, it gave me that like, okay, like I do want to create these offerings. So, like I said, like part of the routine or ceremony that I did was like I wrote down the wish or whatever. And then I sat in the feeling of like what it would feel like to have that wish fulfilled. From there, I wrote an affirmation of like what it would feel like that coming true. And then it was like, okay, well, what are you going to do to move towards that? And so it gave me like concrete ways to be like, okay, I want these offerings that are in alignment to like who I am now at this point in my business. So I wrote the affirmation. Can't remember what it was right now in this moment, but the intention was to basically like finalize my offers and get them put onto Kajabi by the end of the month. And
Mhm.
so that gave me motivation to like journal out, finish flushing out all of my brainstorms around like what I wanted to offer. And I don't normally have a defined ego heart center. And so that's the center for like self-esteem and self-worth and all the things. However, with this transit that we've been in for the past couple of weeks, I have that center defined. And so one of my mentors, she was like, she loves writing her offers when the center is defined because then she can actually stand in the value of the transformation that she provides. So I was like, well, I need to set these prices while that's still in alignment. Otherwise, I'm going to be like up in the air. And so
Okay,
now
I figure what my transit is.
yeah. We should take a look. But yeah, so I sat down, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I figured out like my hourly rate, and I was like, okay, so if it's a package, it's going to be this amount. And so now it's really just at a point where I just have to sit down probably with AI to give me something to respond to, because this was something that I learned is helpful as a generator. Like our sacral will tell us like yes or no. So AI can actually be really helpful when you're coming up with like how you're going to present it. It's like, I don't really think I was trying to say that. And you can like massage it or add your own things to it. And so like that was an example. And so by the end of the month, I'm going to have this wish fulfilled. I will have taken action towards it. And it's crazy because like ceremony aside, I have been trying to get like more open to how things can flow to me. Like one of the things that we were talking about was like, it doesn't have to look like the form of clients. It can look like unexpected checks in the mail. So now it's one of those things where like, because I'm open and because I have these goals, I've been on like 2 podcasts now where like one of them, because it was like a fempreneur themed one, which I loved because I was all in the spiritual talking about how human design helps you trust yourself and stuff. And she was like, but how do people work with you? And I was like, oh yeah, you did ask that as a part of the question. Yes. So it like on air, she was like, I would love for you to let me know when these offers are on your website because I would love to do a reading with you. And I'm like, okay, universe, like I was asking, are people
Right.
going to be coming for these offers like when I put them out there? And it's like letting me know like, yes, actually, like if you just you set the intention and you do the work, like, yeah, people are going to be waiting for what it is that you have to offer. So I would just say, there is that certain amount of like detachment, like putting your wishes into the universe, detaching what you feel or like setting expectations around what you think it should show up as. Like expectations are like such a killer. Yes, but like releasing that and then just kind of doing your work, right? We're not just sitting around on our thumbs waiting for stuff to show up, but just
Right.
doing your work and knowing and trusting in divine timing. Like it will happen for you. So um some few tips in there. It's not very bullet pointed, but yeah.
Well, to sum it up, listeners, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, we do want to thank our listeners for listening to us today, though. We do appreciate it, and we hope that you'll hit whatever bell or button or whatever subscribe thing there is on the social media platform that you're listening to us on. We hope that you do that and you share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. And we just want to encourage you to keep doing the things. We all go through seasons in our spirituality where some things may be working and some things maybe not, and then you'll wake up the next day and it works. So if that happens to you, you're right there along with the rest of us. So we encourage you just to keep going, keep learning, keep striving to be the best, you that you are with you, because that's who it matters to be with. And so we'll see you on the next episode, and hopefully we'll be named by then. So that's it. We'll see
We
you next
don't
time.
we have a name. Yes, announcement is coming. See you. And thank you for listening.